Hi all. We are starting with biology discussion for second PU. First year, we have studied 5 units. The unit number continues. This year we start with unit number 6. We have 5 units again. 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Unit number 6. The name of the unit is Reproduction and it carries 25 marks in a 105 mark question paper of theory exam. There are 4 chapters in this unit, and I am dealing with the first chapter. The first chapter is Reproduction in Organisms. Last year, we studied the characteristics of living organisms. We studied that they are characterized by growth, reproduction, metabolism, irritability, biomolecules, protoplasm, and consciousness. Growth, by definition, is the ability of an organism to increase its size, but you know that there are exceptions. Viruses do not grow. Reproduction, the ability of an organism to produce young one of its own kind. Again, there are exceptions. Some organisms, like hybrid between two different species, cannot reproduce. For example, a cross between horse and donkey, which results in mule, cannot reproduce. Metabolism, sum total of biochemical reactions of an organism, it is indispensable. Every living organism must perform metabolism. Again, viruses are a small exception because they need host organism to provide enzymes. They cannot do metabolism on their own. Irritability, another indispensable character, response to stimulus. Biomolecules, indispensable character. Every organism is made up of biological molecules like proteins, fats, nucleic acids, and etc. Protoplasm, the physical basis of life. Everything that contains within a cell membrane is protoplasm. Well, viruses don't have protoplasm. Consciousness, it is the ability of an organism to realize its existence, what I am, who I am. And this consciousness, you find it missing in a person who is bedridden, who is in an ICU, who is unconscious. Except in such cases, otherwise, yes, every organism has its consciousness. So let us draw a content from this first year, first chapter. We are dealing with this topic, the reproduction. So we explain about what is reproduction, how do the organisms reproduce, and various methods of reproduction in chapter 1. Let us start with the definition of what is meant by lifespan. Lifespan, it is the period of existence of an organism from its birth to its natural death. Every organism has a specific lifespan. The number of years an organism lives, the number of days or weeks an organism lives is species specific. We have some examples. I have a list of some examples quoted in the text. Elephant lives about 60 to 80 years. Whereas a rose plant, of course, it depends on how you maintain the plant. And in normal circumstances, if you maintain it well, it can live up to 40 to 50 years. A dog has a limited lifespan, so 10 to 15 years. Butterfly, 1 or 2 weeks. Crow, 15 years. Banana plant, a sucker which grows into a plant, hardly about 1 year. After producing fruit, it dies. Cow, 10 to 15 years. Parrot, interestingly, has a long lifespan, 140 years. Crocodile, 60 years. Horse, 10 to 15 years. Fruit fly, a small insect which you find on rotten fruits, about 3 weeks. Rice plant, again it depends on the variety. Some varieties they last for just 3 months, which we grow in places like Mandia, Kodegala, and some last for a long time, so 250 days. Tortoise, 100 to 150 years, a very long lifespan. Banyan tree, if you do not disturb, yes, it lives for 500 to 700 years. This is just a list of examples to make you understand that lifespan is different for different species. It depends on their food style, lifestyle, the survival chances, etc. Now let us understand why an organism cannot be immortal. The organism with no death, we call it immortal. Well, we cannot be immortal because the environment in which we live constantly changes and we cannot adapt to such large changes. So, we are designed to live for a short duration of time. So, we take birth and we die. We have a death. So, because we die and we cannot continue ourselves as long as the earth exists, we, the members of a species, are designed to create young one of our own kind, and we call this process reproduction. Living organisms reproduce because they want to continue the existence of their species. So, there comes a necessity called reproduction. So, what is reproduction? Reproduction is the ability of an organism to produce young one of its own kind. So, every living organism has to reproduce, but I told you some exceptions, hybrids don't reproduce. What are the two types of reproduction? There are two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Each method has its own advantages and disadvantages. Let us make a comparison. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent. It's an advantage for the organism. It need not search for its partner. Whereas in sexual reproduction, it involves either one individual or two individuals. For example, a flowering plant, last time we studied in chapter 5, morphology of flowering plants, that a flower has both male and female parts. So, a flowering plant don't need a partner. A single plant can take care of sexual reproduction. Whereas in most of the animals, you can distinguish animals into male and female, so it involves two individuals. So, sexual reproduction involves one or two parents. Asexual method is a quicker method of reproduction because just the body part divides into two and we call it reproduction. It doesn't require any preparation. Just the increase in size is followed by cell division. Say in the case of amoeba, it divides into two in just 20 minutes. Whereas sexual reproduction needs time, it has to produce special organs, and those organs take care of production of young one. So, sexual reproduction needs time. Asexual reproduction does not involve union of gametes. Gametes are nothing but special cells which unite and give rise to the young one of next generation. Gametes are not involved in case of asexual reproduction, whereas sexual reproduction involves union of special cells called gametes. Asexual reproduction, the young ones born are similar to parent. You can just call them clones. No difference. The young one is exactly the same as the parent. The parent has superior characters, the young one continues with it. Parents have inferior characters, the same thing repeats in the young one. So, it's an advantage as well as a disadvantage. The originality does not change, it is a sexual reproduction. Whereas in sexual reproduction, the young one born is born with the differences because it involves two different parents, and also involving meiosis during gamete formation brings about variations. These variations can be favorable or it is unfavorable. The organism born with the favorable variations survive better, whereas organisms with inferior characters are destined to die. In asexual reproduction, the organism cannot survive in a new environment. What if I transfer amoeba from a pond to another pond? It may not survive because of a small biochemical change in the medium, the water, the organism may not adjust, it may not adapt, it may die. Whereas in sexual reproduction, the young ones may survive better in a new environment because they come with differences. The genetic material is newly built. They may survive better than their parents. So that's a greatest advantage of sexual reproduction. This is the reason why most of the higher organisms prefer to reproduce by sexual method. ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನಾವು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 1 ಕೆಲವು ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ಗಳನ್ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. ಸಂತಾನೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಎಂದರೇನು, ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್, ತನ್ನಂತರೇ ಪ್ರತಿರೂಪವನ್ನು ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡುವ ಒಂದು ಜೀವಿಯ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯವನ್ನು ಸಂತಾನೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಸಂತಾನೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಜೀವಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಜೀವಿತಾವಧಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಲೈಫ್ ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ತಕ್ಕಂತೆ ಅದು ಬದುಕತ್ತೆ, ಆ ನಂತರ ಸಾಯುತ್ತೆ. ಸಾಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ತನ್ನ ಗುಂಪಿನ ಜೀವಿಗಳ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯನ್ನು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಸಿ ಸಾಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸಂತಾನೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್, ಸಂತಾನೋತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಕಲ್ತ್ವಿ. ಎಷ್ಟು ವಿಧದಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಅದು ನಿರ್ಲಿಂಗ ರೀತಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಲಿಂಗ ರೀತಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಸೆಕ್ಷುಯಲ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಎಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬಗೆಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ದ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ asexual reproduction. So what is the definition of asexual reproduction? Previous chart I showed you this two comparative statements, asexual versus sexual. I told you asexual reproduction, one individual is enough and it's quicker method of reproduction and it does not involve any variation, does not involve any gamete formation. The limiting factor is the young one born may not survive in a new environment. So I have highlighted that asexual reproduction involves single individual. It does not involve the union of gametes. You can call this method of reproduction cloning, tadrupigalu, because the young one born is exactly same as the parent. Let us take some examples, we will get a better idea about this. I have listed the examples here, the asexual reproduction. The first example is binary fission. You can quote several examples for binary fission. We have taken amoeba here. It's an irregularly shaped single-celled protozoan found in fresh water. Amoeba, once it attains a certain size, once it cannot expand any further, it divides. The division involves two steps: division of nucleus followed by division of cytoplasm. Division of nucleus, we call it karyokinesis. Division of cytoplasm, we call it the cytokinesis process. Ultimately, it results in two cells, we call them daughter cells. They are exactly same as the parent cell with respect to genetic content. They are only different with respect to the size. Once they grow, they behave as parent cell and they are able to produce more young ones. So, these two are exactly similar to each other, so they can be called clones. And because the content of the parent cell continues in the young one, you can say the parent cell has become immortal. It has no death because the protoplasm of the parent cell continues in its young one. So, no death, immortality. So, this is one speciality of lower organisms. They can be considered immortal because their content continues in their young ones. Binary fission, one cell divides to form two equal sized cells. Now let us consider the second example, budding. Budding in yeast. You know that yeast is a fungus. It has a cell wall made up of chitin, it has a vacuole, it has nucleus. And this cell prefers to divide by cell division, where the nuclear division is equal but the cytoplasmic division is unequal. So, at the end, parent cell retains most of its protoplasm. The daughter cell is small in size. So, you see a small extension here, we call it bud. The nucleus divides to form two nuclei, one of the nuclei migrate to the bud. It's followed by division of the cytoplasm, cell wall is formed, so we get two cells. The daughter cell can divide only after its growth, whereas the parent cell can immediately take up one more cell division. So you can see a difference between binary fission and budding. In binary fission, immediately the daughter cells grow up, they divide to form 4 cells, they again grow, they divide to form 8 cells and so on. Whereas in budding, the parent cell can continuously give rise to daughter cells, whereas the daughter cells need to take time to divide. So it cannot be geometric. The numbers cannot be geometric. The young ones cannot be produced in a geometric proportion. That is a uniqueness of method called budding. Example number 3, zoospore formation. In case of algae, we studied in first year that green algae mostly live in fresh water. One of the freshwater alga is Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas is a motile organism. It is capable of movement. So this line represents the parent cell wall, and these are the babies, these are the young ones which are coming out of the parent cell. The content of the parent cell divides to produce 4 or 8 small bits, and each bit develops a pair of flagella. They have a chloroplast, some storage body called pyrenoid, and once the daughter cells are formed, the parent cell wall disintegrates or breaks and release zoospores. So this is a sexual method of reproduction because only one parent is involved. Zoospore formation in Chlamydomonas. You understood why it should be called zoospore. Zoon is capable of movement. It's a spore capable of movement, so you call it zoospore. Example number 4 is Commedia Formation. On orange fruits, when you keep it for a long time, you see the development of a white scum which later turns greenish. On examination in the microscope, you observe fungal hyphae. In lab exams, lab practical classes, you study those fungal thallus. So those fungi, the penicillium, they reproduce with production of tiny cells called conidia. Conidia are nothing but exogenous buds. They are the tiny buds produced at the tip of the body of the fungus called hypha. From the tip of the hypha, the cells are pinched off. On separation, they get dispersed in the air, they get transported for a long distance. When they land on a suitable environment, suitable substrate like another orange fruit, they are able to produce another hyphal mass and produce more spores. It's a saprophytic fungus. The method of reproduction is Commedia formation. We notice budding even in organisms like Hydra. It's a Okay, I'll just correct it here. That's Hydra. So in case of Hydra, a cylindrate organism which lives in fresh water. It has a cylindrical body, you call it polyp. There are tentacles. Mouth is found in the free end. You know that the region just below the mouth, a region called epistome, hypostome. The hypostome region, it keeps on growing, producing more tentacles. The old part of the body keeps on dying. So Hydra also is immortal, never dies, and it produces tiny units called buds. These buds again carry a bunch of tentacles at the free end. On separation, the bud leads independent life. So Hydra again reproduced by budding method of reproduction like yeast. One more example is gemmule formation. These are very tiny spherical bodies produced by freshwater sponges. Freshwater sponge by name Spongilla produce this. They may be of the size of a mustard seed. You know that fresh water, it is subjected to fluctuation. The water level does not remain constant. In summer, it dries up. Sponges, the animals called sponges, they grow within the water. In a fresh water, they have a risk of death because in summer the water level recedes. The sponges get exposed to air. they certainly die. When they realize that they're going to die, they produce special bodies called gemmules. You can see a bunch of cells inside, protected by a layer of skeleton made up of needle-like structures. We call them spicules. You find a tiny opening here, a region through which water can enter inside and trigger off life activity when the favorable conditions return. So this unit, we call it gemmule. When the animal dies, it dies with a bunch of gemmules within its body. When the favorable conditions return, the gemmules get submerged in water. When the water takes entry, the cells divide, differentiate, and give rise to a new sponge body. So gemmule is more a method of tiding over unfavorable condition rather than a process of multiplication. So it helps the animal to survive even at extreme environment. There are more examples. Example number 7, multiple fission. Amoeba, when the content is plenty, when they have good amount of nutrition, they prefer to multiply by multiple fission where the nucleus does not divide to form two but many, and each nucleus gets surrounded by a bit of cytoplasm. So one amoeba at a time gives rise to several amoebae. Plasmodium, the malarial parasite transported by Anopheles mosquito, again, it multiplies by multiple fission and it attacks the human cells, the liver cells. A single cell gives rise to many cells, so it's multiple fission. There is one more method called encystation, again noticed in amoeba, where under unfavorable condition, amoeba covers itself with a resistant wall, and this is called cyst formation or encystation, and it stays for a duration of time, a few months, until the favorable conditions return. When the favorable conditions return, they absorb water, break the wall, and lead independent life. So again, encystation is a method of overcoming unfavorable situation. So these are the examples you'll be writing in the exam. We'll ask you questions like, give an example for, say example for binary fission, amoeba, and so on. That is how you can frame questions for this, prepare accordingly. Okay, continuing with asexual reproduction, let's just recap what we have learned till now. We studied the definition of lifespan, listed examples of various organisms and their lifespan. We understood the definition of reproduction. We realized that there are two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. We entered into the first topic, asexual reproduction. We understood how unique it is when compared to sexual reproduction, and we listed various examples of asexual reproduction. Organisms like amoeba, yeast, penicillium, chlamydomonas, hydra. So we understood the uniqueness of each of those organisms. Let us continue the same topic. I am now dealing with some of the plant examples of asexual reproduction. Examples here are quoted under the heading Vegetative Propagation. How this is different from the lower organisms. Reproduction in plants, we prefer to use a better term than asexual reproduction, and the term we use is vegetative propagation. The definition is when an ordinary plant part functions as a reproducing structure, we call it vegetative propagation. When an ordinary plant part functions as a reproducing structure, we call it vegetative propagation. Mostly, these vegetative propagules, the unit that is involved in reproduction, are some stem modification. The stem modifies into a special unit and we call them propagules. And there are a good number of examples. I have quoted some here. Let me explain them one by one. Again, last year, chapter 5, Morphology of Flowering Plants, we listed a good number of stem modifications. The underground stem modifications we listed were potato, ginger, onion, amorphophallus. We are taking the same examples now and we are analyzing them, how they function as vegetative propagules. Let us consider these two examples, the tuber and the rhizome. Tuber is from potato plant, rhizome is from ginger plant. What are the similarities? Both are underground stem modifications, both are horizontal in their orientation, both are storage in function, both can perennate, they can last for a long time inside the soil. When the favorable conditions return, they sprout to produce plants, and both function as vegetative propagules. These are the similarities. Well, let us consider the differences, how they are different from each other. You don't see a potato branched, mostly it is unbranched. Ginger often branches. You don't find a scaly leaf on a potato tuber, whereas in rhizome of ginger, we find scaly leaves, papery structures on the surface. You don't find a root on a tuber. You can just check any number of potatoes. I can assure you there can be no potato with some root popping out of it. Rhizome, you often find adventitious roots hanging all over. So those are some of the differences between the two structures. Suppose in the exam, if they ask us, comment on tuber of potato, what do we write? Tuber is an underground stem modification of potato where it is oval in appearance with a number of tiny adventitious buds called eyes. They store food and thus they perennate in the soil. When the favorable conditions return, the buds sprout, the so-called eyes sprout and give rise to plants. This is the content you would write. It asks you to comment on tuber of potato. Another example, rhizome. Rhizome of ginger. Rhizome is a horizontally growing underground stem, branched, covered with scaly leaves, produce adventitious roots. They store food, they perennate in the soil. When the old part of the rhizome dies, the branches separate and thus they multiply in number. Each branch can give rise to a plant when the favorable conditions return. This is how ginger reproduces. The next example may be a little unfamiliar with respect to name, bulbil of agave. Agave, ಈ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗದ್ದೆಗಳ ಬದುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಬೇಲಿ ಗಿಡ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಕತ್ತಾಳೆ, ಭೂತಪರಂಗಿ ಅಂತ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. So this plant, the agave plant, during reproduction produces a very long inflorescence. The inflorescence stalk is something like few meters in length. It produces hundreds of tiny buds, and each bud is supposed to become a flower. Instead, the bud develops into a structure called bulbil. So it's a unit, it's a propagule ready to become a plant. ಕತ್ತಾಳೆ ಗಿಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೂ ಬಿಡೋ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಬಡ್ಗಳು ಬರ್ತವೆ, ಅದರ ಹೆಸರು ಬಲ್ಬಿಲ್ ಅಂತ. ಅದು ಗಿಡದಿಂದ ಬೇರೆ ಆದಾಗ, ಎಲ್ಬಲ್ ಬಿದ್ದಾಗ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಗಿಡವನ್ನು ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. They don't need any pollen grain, they don't need any fertilization. Directly the flower buds become vegetative propagule. That is a speciality of bulbil. So you can see the stem, there is some storage food inside, and there are tiny scaly leaves, and there are larger leaves also. So when it is separated or when it detaches from the plant, falls in the soil, when the favorable conditions return, they sprout into plant. ಕುತೂಹಲಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಈ ಬಲ್ಬಿಲನ್ನು ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ತೆಗೆದು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಇಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಓಪನ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ 1 ವರ್ಷದವರೆಗೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ನೀರಿನ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ಬಲ್ಬಿಲ್ ವೆಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ಅದು ಗಿಡ ಆಗಿ ಬೆಳೀತು. So that is their endurance. They can wait for a long time. A lot of patience they have. You should also have a lot of patience. You should have patience to study, right? Okay, so bulbil is a method of vegetative production noticed in agave. Leaf bud. This is a common method of reproduction in desert plants. You know how harsh the environment is. ಬೇಸಿಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಿಸಿಯಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಮರುಭೂಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ. Very special plants called succulents grow over there. Succulent is a plant specialized to store water for a later use. This is one such plant. I've shown a leaf of a succulent plant. It's called bryophyllum. This bryophyllum plant, by accident, if the leaf separates from the plant, it will not waste its resources. At the margin of the leaf, it will carry a group of dividing cells. We call them epiphyllous buds. Epi is above, phyllis is leaf, a bud above the leaf. So these leaf buds or epiphyllous buds, now they aggregate the nutrients, they develop into tiny plants. Over a period of time, this leaf dies and these plants establish in the soil. Thus the plant multiplies. It's called vegetative propagation. The next example is offset method of reproduction. This is the big headache in your tanks. ನಿಮ್ಮೂರ ಕೆರೆಗಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಈ ಗಿಡ ಐಕಾರ್ನಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ವಾಟರ್ ಹಯಾಸಿಂತ್, ಟೆರರ್ ಆಫ್ ಬೆಂಗಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಬೆಂಗಾಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಂತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಗಿಡಗಳ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಯಿಂದಾಗಿ ಲಕ್ಷ ಲಕ್ಷ ಮೀನುಗಳು ಸತ್ತೋಯ್ತು. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಗಿಡಗಳ ಎಲೆ ಕೊಳೆತಾಗ ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರಿ ಆಮ್ಲಜನಕವನ್ನು ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೀನುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಸಿಗದೆ ಅವುಗಳು ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ತವೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿನ ಬೆಸ್ತರಿಗೆ ಹಿಡಿಯೋಕೆ ಮೀನೇ ಸಿಗದೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಜಲಕ್ಷಾಮ ಉಂಟಾಯಿತು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಟೆರರ್ ಆಫ್ ಬೆಂಗಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಊರಿನ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ಆಕಸ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನಿಯಂತ್ರಣ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಅಮೆಝಾನ್ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್. ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ನೋಡೋಕ್ಕೆ, ಆರ್ನಮೆಂಟಲ್, ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಅಂತ ತಂದಿಟ್ರು. ಈಗ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ನಿಯಂತ್ರಣ ತಪ್ಪಿ ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಕೊರೋನಾ ವೈರಸ್. ಈ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ, there is a bunch of leaves, a bunch of roots, and that's a point where the stem is. So the nodes are concentrated. You find a bunch of leaves above, a bunch of roots below. The leaves are bulb-like. There will be a group of cells inside with a lot of intercellular spaces. You know that this is called parenchyma. Last year, chapter 6, we studied this. So this is a bulbous petiole with parenchyma tissue. This is lamina for photosynthesis. And these roots, they are adventitious. You find the root tip protected by a cap of sclerenchyma. We call it root pocket. So they can save their cells from attackers like fishes. The meristematic cells are protected by these root pockets. During reproduction, it produces a horizontal branch, a horizontal stem, and that again ends in a bunch of leaves above, a bunch of roots below. And this stem is very weak. It is designed to be weak. So any mechanical damage, this will cut and the two branches separate. Thus the number is increased. They keep on producing these branches and thus they multiply very fast and spread all over the surface of the water. So that's offset of eichhornia. Some more examples to quote. Onion, which you use very regularly. You have seen the structure. There is a cluster of leaf bases with a bunch of roots below. It's called by the name bulb, almost similar to bulbil. It's again a vegetative propagule. When you put it in the soil, you get a plant. Sucker, banana plant and chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum ಅಂದರೆ ಸೇವಂತಿಗೆ ಗಿಡ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀರಾ. ಸೇವಂತಿಗೆ ಗಿಡದ ಬುಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಮನಿಸಿ, ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಗಳು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಮಣ್ಣಿಂದ ಆಚೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಾಳೆ ಗಿಡದ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಗಮನಿಸಿ, ಬಾಳೆ ಕಂದುಗಳು ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಆ ಬೇಬಿ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಭೂಮಿ ಒಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಆಚೆಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಸೆಪರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಟ್ಟಾಗ ಹೊಸ ಗಿಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಬೇಬಿ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮದರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಿಂದ ಫುಡ್ಡನ್ನು ಸಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ನಂತರ ಅದು ಫುಡ್ಡನ್ನು ಸಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸಕ್ಕರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು? ದೇ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ದೇ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯು ವಾಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್, ಆರ್ ದೇ ಗಿವ್ ಯು ದ modification, they ask you the example. Give an example for sucker, give an example for offset, example for bulbil, and so on. One more example is runner. ನೀವು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಡೇಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಂದಿರೋ ಹುಳಿ ಸೊಪ್ಪು, ಆಕ್ಸಾಲಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಆ ಗಿಡದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Again, first year, 5th chapter, you have the diagram, you have studied this. Recall ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ತೆಗೆದು ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ. The stem grows on the surface of the soil, it runs on the surface of the soil, producing roots at every node and bunch of leaves above. If the internodes are cut due to mechanical damage, they become individual plants. That's a method of reproduction called runner method of reproduction. To sum up, this is what we studied till now. The definition of lifespan, various examples of lifespan, reproduction, the definition, why should the organisms reproduce? Because they have a limited lifespan, they have to reproduce. Types of reproduction, asexual and sexual, we compared it. Types of asexual reproduction, we listed a few examples in the lower organisms, and we listed vegetative propagules of various plant species. This is the content of topic 1.1, asexual reproduction.